we have just gotten the biggest tier shift of the Scarlet and Violet metagame. What's poppin', people? Today, I got a lot to talk about because the NU tier, and every metagame, but of course we're focusing on NU today, has just completely changed. Any team you have right now, bin it. Or keep it for fun. But bin it. Because, oh my lord. So you thought the UU shifts are insane, but look at all of this. Look at it! It's insane. That's not NU anymore. But down here, there we go. We got all of this right here. These are Pokemon that were released in Pokemon Home and dropped immediately from OU down. And then down here is where we get the actual, like, NU related shifts. All of these. Oh, not all of that. All of these. So we got a lot to talk about, of course, as always. A little reminder, if you've not subscribed to the channel yet, you should subscribe right now. Just go. I will wait 5 seconds. Go click the button. Alright, if you didn't click the button yet, then I don't know what to tell you. L plus ratio bozo. But we're going to talk about all these changes because they're really exciting. They're going to make the metagame a ton more fun to play. Even if it's ridiculously, like, busted. If it dropped, it's going to be really fun. Let's first talk about the mods, though, that we got just traditionally through shifts. I think that is helpful because it at least lets us talk about the metagame a bit before all of the home mods are getting introduced. We could talk about maybe why stuff dropped or rose out of NU. Naturally, I don't play a ton of RE, but at least got a little bit of an idea. So, like, we see Goodra and Vaporeon both rising, and to my understanding, Goodra's been getting a little bit of extra use lately. It's just like how in NU, it's a mon with really, really strong coverage. And I believe it has maybe gotten... There might have been a move it got back. I don't recall if it got a coverage option back, but just like in Sword and Shield NU, Goodra's got basically moved to hit anything that would switch into it. And as we see Blissey falling off, there's not as many blanket checks to Goodra as there used to be. And it also gives you a generally nice blanket special wall yourself. So you've got a mon that is able to threaten any of its switch-ins, really. You know, you've got coverage for fairies, you've got coverage for steals. And in general, you're just really strong, while also being able to find entry on Pokemon, like, if we even just look at the new drops, you got, like, Kilowattrel you can switch in on, assuming it doesn't Volt Switch. So that's pretty cool. We weren't gonna ever unban it, I don't think. At least not soon. So this is pretty inconsequential. The big one's Vaporeon rising, and although Vaporeon hasn't been as prevalent in NU as of late, it was still a staple of a tier. Rising up to RU in large part to fill the void that was left by Slowbro. Rising up, I don't remember when it left for UU, but a little bit ago. Now, maybe with RU getting back a couple Pokemon, as we can see here, it did get the Water Tauros back. I don't know how much that affects Vaporeon. It might actually give Vaporeon more of a niche, especially with Inteleon also dropping, but it'll fit well up there. And I think NU long-term is going to be okay without it. But now let's get to the ones that we got. So we got a Abomasnow back, and Titan, and Frostmoth, all in one shift. And y'all will remember those snow teams that were getting use. Prior to Abomasnow, like, rising right back up. We had them for, like, a month. Now, Titan saying it dropped to RU or NU might actually be wrong, because I'm pretty sure we banned it. But we're gonna be voting on unbanning stuff anyway. I may bring that up in the thread if it hasn't been addressed. I have to go back and check what we did with Titan, but I think it might have been banned. Regardless, though, having Abomasnow back does open up snow teams for potential use, which is, of course, very interesting. We don't have steel types at all right now. It's like Hisui and Sliggoo, which doesn't resist ice. And Berserker, which is just dreadful. Just a depressing excuse of a Pokemon. So I'm not too sure if really we've got the best tools to deal with Hail. It's going to be a lot of Terra reliance, which only I feel goes so far. The interesting drop to me is seeing Blissey, which I think is really funny, because for a while, we saw a ton of people saying, oh, NU, we're losing Chansey finally. Woohoo, Blissey got Heal Bell. It's going to rise up. And you know what? It won't shock me if in August I come back to you and I tell you Blissey rose to OU. If you've been watching World Cup, or even just high OU play generally lately, you'll notice Blissey, Stall in general, but Blissey's on those teams. Gets a lot of use. So it won't surprise me if we see Blissey rise up to OU soon. I don't think that'll have any impact on Chansey then leaving anyway, because we're just not seeing Blissey get much use anywhere else. Again, it didn't rise to UU, it didn't rise to OU, it didn't stay RU, it literally is dropping down. So you think Chansey's getting any more use? Well, it's worse? Nah. But this is pretty interesting, because I wonder how much it helps Stall. What you need to remember with Blissey compared to Chansey, Chansey takes hazards damage. That's why it has been so much worse lately, especially as we've played metagames with less hazard control. Chansey is susceptible to spikes. If your opponent is able to somehow force them, it can get pretty dicey pretty quickly. And so, Blissey is a much better alternative. You can run boots on it, so it just becomes much harder to overwhelm over time. And of course, the bigger sticking point, at least in my view, is Blissey has an offensive stat worth talking about. If we go to my team builder here, and I'm going to make sure I do not look in chat there, just so we don't accidentally spoil something. I'm in the SS builder right now, so bear with me. Blissey actually has 75 base special attack. That's not high, mind you. That's still below average. But gets Calm Mind. As you can see, its moves are like genuinely really, really solid too. I don't know how many of these moves it still has based on, you know, generational shifts. But it's got like stored power, it's got Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt. There's a lot you can do with Blissey. And so it actually gives Stall a potential like bulky setup sweeper even, or at least like another option if they want to try it, which I do find very, very interesting for us going forward. Do we see Stall pick up more use because Blissey is so powerful? Do we need to look into tiering Blissey out of NU because it is so powerful and bulky? I'm unsure, but of course we'll see with time. I don't think it'll take too long to decide on if Blissey's OP or not. So Titan, like I mentioned, I don't even know if it's supposed to be saying it moved to NU, because I think we banned it. But if we didn't ban it, I'll say this real quick, it is just as good as it was when we had it last time, which is to say, very, very OP. Ditto dropping. I'm shocked it had remained RU for so long, but it does make sense when you look at how dominant Hyper Offense has been in RU for a long time. Ditto being able to copy any setup sweeper is a huge boon, and again, this plays into the Blissey point with Stall. Ditto is another huge piece to Stall. As we've seen in the past, people love running Ditto because it gives you... Stall is all about playing the PowerPoint management game long term, and Ditto can copy the same Pokemon as many times as it wants, and it keeps refreshing its PowerPoint. So if I copied someone's, say, Sandaconda once, and I burn through all of my rest PowerPoints, and then I switch out, and I come back in later, I will have those 5 rest PowerPoints right back. So, Ditto gives us another tool if we want to try out Stall teams. You decide if you like that or not. Frostlass rising to NU, not rising to NU, dropping to NU. Very, very cool. If you'll see, the theme is ice types. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe more if I go up here. Well, definitely more. I saw Articuno. But Frostlass gives us an offensive spiker. I do believe it lost Poltergeist, so we probably won't be seeing too much of choice sets. But if you think about spikers in NU, recently it has been Cacturn and Quillfish dominating that. Frostlass gives us a very cool alternative, and like I mentioned, offensive spikes. So maybe we see Hyper Offense with Frostlass now pick up. Think about how the lead recently of choice has been Bombardier. Frostlass is even faster, it still has Taunt. It has Destiny Bond, it's got status moves you can use. There's a lot of reason to maybe now start using Frostlass instead. And, you know, something that's always been mentioned since we got Heavy Duty Boots as an item is Stealth Rock becomes a little more droppable as a move. People feel if a Mon's weak to rocks, it's just going to have boots anyway, so who cares? Why set him up? Spikes are a little bit different. Now, we've seen more Mons that aren't weak to rocks running boots anyway this gen, just because there's so few hazard control options that even just having that immunity to spikes goes a long way. But I do think that mono spikes for HO still works really well. Maybe we see that, because I do think Frostlass in a vacuum is definitely a better HO lead. Frostmoth drops back to Inu. I wanted this mon banned back when we had Paparaja. What do you think my opinion is now? Frostmoth is a very, very strong Quiver Dance sweeper. And we even lost Passimian, which... There were some Frostmoth sets that could cheese even Scarf Pass, but that was one of the more consistent revenge killers, because you outsped it at +1. You CC'd it in the dome, it was wraps, it was GG. Now our best Scarfer is, let's go see. Hold on, guys. Let's go see, what is our best Scarfer in NU? Not really liking my options here. Jolteon is a faster mon, but it does not beat you down. Maybe it's like Hisuian Sneasel? Maybe? Maybe like Croak? Yeah, not exactly the most inspiring. Grimmsnarl dropping. Grimm's a mon I'm very interested in. You compare it to when we got it last gen. We still had a lot of hype around Grimm, not even for like screen stuff, but for the appeal of banned, like offensive Grimmsnarl sets, because it's got great coverage and is just really strong. It ended up kind of falling flat though, because it just wasn't strong enough. There was mons that could still scatter around it, take its hits. Ended up being a pretty mediocre option by the end of the generation. But we had more fairy types back then. We had the big horse, Mudsdale. We had better bulky poison types overall. And so maybe offensive Grimm even is a lot better now. It's got Terra even to exploit that, which is pretty big. And, I mean, hey, even with dual screens being neutered by Light Clay's ban and Aryu, prankster screens are always pretty strong. So I'm sure we'll see some of that. And if the Stallfest needed any more reason to be, you know, looked at with a little side-eye, because Stall may be very good now, Sableye also dropped. So we get Blissey, Ditto, Sableye, all in the same damn tier shift. I'm frankly disgusted by it. I don't want to play against Stall, neither do you, so you should subscribe to me so that I will do your bidding and ban Stall from NU. That is all to say, I still think Stall has notable limitations, just due to the nerfs to all the recovery moves, the, you know, fact we have literally one cleric available. But Sableye, there's a lot to like. Even if you want to just look at Sableye on a balanced team, there's a lot to be happy for there. It's a Ghost Dark type, so you do check things like Croak and Hisuian Sneasel very well. The Prankster Will-O-Wisp is what I'm really excited about. I could see, now, one of the things that could be a little annoying is, of course, those mons do Terra Dark very frequently. Or at least Croak does, and I think there's incentive to run Terra Dark on Hisuian Sneasel. But you still burn their Terra, and they're not one-shotting you, so you can still play around it a little bit. Also, if Hisuian Sneasel is Terra Dark, that means it is not Trailblaze, which that alone gives you a lot to be happy for from a, you know, how do I revenge kill this Pokemon perspective. I think this mon, though, will be really, really solid. Also, Hardwall's Metacham, which I think everyone appreciates that. So let's talk about now some mons that rose up. Hisuian Sneasel, this should shock no one. This mon has been incredibly dominant throughout NU ever since it was released in late May. The best Swords Dance sweeper in the tier currently. It's a great choice item user too, whether you're Scarf or Banded. Scarf especially seeing use because we do kind of need, you know, fast Scarfers. With Jolteon being so prevalent, throwing a Scarf on this mon as a means of revenge killing has been really effective. And in using Terra to bypass supposed checks like Rotom or Sandaconda, even something like Scarf Scyther, you know, you could Trailblaze up and get past that. Don't really need Terra for that, but still an interaction that happens. It's a very, very strong Pokemon. I don't know how to look with the shifts. It'll kind of just depend on what we see, because I have not really looked at the shifts too much. I want y'all to know right now, I have not looked up at those long list of mons all too closely. I do know one guy that's here. We'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah. Also, I love how it's just NFEs here. So Hatchram finally rises up as well. Hat has seen a lot of use throughout all of NUPL. Again, we talk about how our tier really lacks good hazard control. Hatchram being able to deny Sandaconda, the most common hazard setter. Its hazard is really, really solid. You deny Quillfish. You can Terra and kind of match up against Cacturne a little better, although Leaf Storm is doing a lot. Just a very nice option. Also freeing up Scyther to run non-heavy-duty boots item options, which is very cool. Violite has seen use on those teams because it makes Scyther, you know, a little bit harder to revenge kill, especially if you Terra with it. Or even just Scarf Scyther, which gives you a very nice pivot. You know, Scyther is incredibly fast and incredibly strong. Being able to unlock Scarf on it so you revenge kill things like Hisui and Sneasel, so you can revenge kill Jolteon, maybe even a Quiver Danced or Ikorio. A lot to like about what Hat offers. Hisui and Quillfish Rises, I'm honestly a little surprised by it, but it makes sense. Look at our hazard movers, and then look at Quillfish. I mean, it beats up on Hatchrim, it beats up on Lurantis. Scyther is not the worst matchup ever. So you're very, very adept at getting your spikes up. Just being a nuisance. Don't really have much else to say about that mon. And Hisui Slagoo, it is officially the only steel type in NU. Let's go! Hisui Slagoo is a very cool Pokemon. Y'all have seen the set that Joey and I used with just the 4 attacks, especially offensive. But there's also been a lot of people using like Curse Rest Talk with Iron Head, making it a very potent, bulky setup sweeper, giving it more staying power against foes like Scyther. Very cool Pokemon, I really like it. I don't know how well it'll fare in NU with the shifts, but hey, it's okay. We'll make it work. And then Whiscash dropping out of NU because it's trash. Ah, did not mean to quote that. Well, let me save that, and I'll scroll right back up. So let's see all the mons that dropped to NU. And again, we gotta go even down to here, because, well, hey, these are PU mons, so they count. So, Hoopa! Hoopa drops to NU, smile. So this is base Hoopa, of course, not Hoopa Unbound. Dear God, I would be so scared if it was Hoopa Unbound. But, Hoopa, you know, Dark Psychic type, it's like base 70 speed. Very strong special attacker. No, it's not Dark Psychic. I misspoke, that's Unbound. Ghost Psychic. The problem? There's no Pursuit in this gen. Now, we do have Dark types that check it. You got like Bombardier, which is faster and can revenge kill. Cacturne has Sucker Punch. You got Mabosstiff, which is faster. Umbreon can defensively check it. You have to play around Focus Blast, but you can still check. And of course, revenge killers like Croak with Sucker Punch, Scyther with like Thief, Hisui and Sneasel if you've got Shadow Claw or Night Slash. It's not like this mod is just unbeatable, but it's going to be a problem. And Mesprit as well. Mesprit is a, of course, long tenured NU Pokemon. Was super dominant in Gen 6. It was NU in Gen 7, although it was terrible. And it saw a brief period in Gen 8 where it was also pretty good. Now it's got Nasty Plot. It also has that new move, Mystical Power. Mesprit is a lot scarier now. Mesprit looking like a threat, especially in a tier without steel types. Mesprit's issue has always been it lacked coverage for steals, unless you're talking about, of course, hidden power generations. But in specific, we're talking last gen. You didn't have a move to hit steals with. Now you do. Well, now you don't have to worry about them, I should say. But also, I mean, you got Terra Blast, which is even better than hidden power, so who cares? Mon could, of course, Terra into Fairy type, completely take away Dark types from trying to answer you as well. Mesprit, there's a lot of reason to be scared of it. Raichu Alola drops, and as far as I'm aware, Pincurchin did not rise. So Electric Terrain is officially playable in NU. We got Raichu Alola. We don't have any Paradox forms, but I think even just that core alone, Pincurchin Raichu, with like some sort of offensive angle going on, could prove very problematic very quickly. It also is, I'm not going to say takes away at Jolteon's niche, because Jolteon is even faster, and I think Jolteon being a Volt Switch blocker is pretty huge in terms of its niche. Maybe we even see Jolteon used alongside Alolan Raichu on some Electric Terrain teams. This is the mon I was talking about, by the way. Tornadus dropped. Y'all remember we had Tornadus for like a week last gen? Well, now we have it again. And it's probably going to be even more broken. Now, we don't have Drizzle allowed. But I really don't think that matters when Specs Torn does not have to ever deal with a Steel type. I'm pressing Hurricane 6 times, I'm claiming 6 of your Pokemon, it is wraps. And there's still other sets I'm sure that'll get use. Some generic pivot set with boots is probably going to be usable. Now it did lose moves like Knockoff, it lost Superpower, it doesn't have Defog, obviously no Toxic this gen. So yeah, I mean it's a worse Pokemon, but do we really think that 110 speed, 130 special attack, or however high it is, Big Torn is going to struggle with being too weak? I don't think so. Weird Deer dropped, and I'd be hard-pressed to tell you what this Pokemon does. It's a Psychic Normal type with a very uninspiring stat spread. I'm sure someone will find something to do with it. And then we get to the Piyumons. Most of these are pretty irrelevant, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Though, there's some hope. Articuno looks kind of bad this gen because it lost all of Toxic, Defog, and Heal Bell. I don't know how hard Heavy Duty Boots can carry it in tandem with Terra. Because it's still, especially if we look at NU, we don't have a lot of steals. So, an offensive Ice Flying sounds decent enough on paper. You could still have like U-Turn, Freeze Dry, Hurricane, like Roost. That sounds okay. And with all the Ice types that dropped, I feel like there's even extra incentive to use Articuno. So it's a mon that I'm like, not the highest on, but I am a little cautiously optimistic. Calyrex will not be viable. Carbink's interesting because, like Diancie, it got spikes this gen. But also it's a Fairy type and a Stealth Rocker. Now, I will reference Doxbun as a Fairy type that dropped to NU and was immediately disregarded as just absolutely terrible. Maybe there's a little bit of reason to like Carbink. We'll see. Alolan Dugtrio, it's another like lead HO option. It's also a Steel type, which is interesting. It's like a fastish Steel and Ground. I don't think it'll be very good. It's just not very bulky or strong, but it is at least a tool for people to play around with. In past gens of NU, we actually did see it try like Subtoxic, but there's no more Toxic for it, so I don't really know. Low-key, Persian Alola, I expect this one to be very good in NU. It's just so bulky for no reason because of Fur Coat. And if we're talking about Pokemon that it can check, well, let's go down the list. It can check Bruxish, it can check Bombardier. It can check like some of these Coilers because you've got Taunt, Parting Shot just to disrupt them as they're trying to boost. Your Mabostiff check. With Terra, you can be a Metacham check. With Terra, you can check really any physical attacker, so I'll stop listing them off. But definitely look towards Alolan Persian. And in the last one, this guy rose out of NUBL. We were never retesting you. Calm down. The last one, Tauros. I do expect Tauros to be very, 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 very strong in NU. It lost Throat Chop, so it doesn't have a great move to hit Ghost types with unless you use Terra. But, you know, it's a normal type that needs to hit Ghost types and avoid being revenge killed by fighting types. So I expect Terra Blast Ghost to be very strong on it. It's also a very fast wall breaker, too. I imagine it's a little bit better than the Paldean Tauros, just because of the speed, and it's not like you're much weaker. In fact, you might be stronger thanks to Sheer Force. I'd have to run calcs comparing, like, Sheer Force, Life Orb, Body Slam to just a normal CC from Paldean Tauros, but there's definitely a lot of reason to think that Tauros will also be very strong. Like, we're looking at mons that I'm already putting on my, like, quick list of, hey, might be ban-worthy. Tauros is on there, Tornadus is on there, even Mesprit and Hoopa, they're, like, mons I'm looking at. And then if we're down here, like, Cetitan, I'm pretty sure it's banned, but I have to confirm. Frostmoth, Grim, there are some mons I'm, like, looking at and definitely scared, so we'll see. Not gonna say anything should ever be banned yet, but I'm also not saying that I'm just okay with them dropping. But I hope y'all are enjoying what you're seeing here. I'm excited to play some NU, build with these new mods. Definitely expect a live later today, assuming I get the time to record one. Otherwise, this will just be the only upload. Sag. I'll catch y'all next time, though. Peace.